Grifter's Bible, a novel by El Shabooms, read by El Shabooms, with sound design by Monumental Sonic Architecture. Chapter 25, Miles from Home and a Hair from Disaster. In 1540, Coronado left the kingdom in northwest Mexico that he had conquered for the glory of Spain. He set out to the untamed north to claim the legendary Cibola. He took a war party and a Franciscan friar on an exploratory wild goose chase across the harsh landscape of the great southwest of North America. They were waylaid by impassable terrain and delayed by the same irascible weather patterns that extended our escape route into a week-long slog. They crossed what they called the St. Peter and St. Paul River, and that's where the conquistador signaled his men to stop. They were near what became Fort Dodge, Kansas on the Santa Fe Trail. The site is marked with a 40-foot-tall cross and a field of white granite that looks out over the unbroken miles of grassland. Maundy Thursday came wreathed in fog at the motor court we had holed up in. The sustained storm was putting out the wildfires all across Texas and Oklahoma, and the Gulf-borne cross breeze had whisked a vast, thick head of steam up the interstate toward Kansas. "We'll have everything ready when you arrive," Mary assured me by text. We got out of Mineola around 1 o'clock and cut east over through Kingstown on 54. The heavy atmosphere inside of the fog made it slow going at first, but there at the junction in Buckland the breeze started to pick up. It spun the clouds like cotton candy in the sky. Billy Goat took a left onto 400 and tore ass to the north. The fields began to glow like a yellow and brilliant skirt beneath the slate-gray belly of sky. Billy Goat ticked it up to 70 and I spotted a patch of blue crack the seamless cover. Within a mile, a sliver of sunlight slipped out of the darkness in our mirrors. Billy Goat plowed down the corridor of light that widened as the fog burned away. We passed through a last sweeping drizzle from a low-slung rack, and it was like walking through a beaded curtain into a new world. The pollution diminished. The steel air became pregnant with rainbows. The sun dried the roads, and there on our right, like a gate or an omen, was the towering white cross standing sentry by the side of the road. The granite glimmered pink in the rouge sunlight as we pounded out the final miles into Dodge. The speed limit signs dropped quickly from 65 to 55 to 45 and so on. Billy Goat took it easy because we all expected speed traps. The Royal Cream was our first sign of civilization as we rolled into town on the main drag. It was open and lit up like a neon hooker, but there were no cars in the lot, no car hops. No one was sitting inside at the booths. Huh. Everyone's gone to the moon. I craned my neck from one window to the other. Shh! I swear I hear music. Seth stuck his head out the window like a dog and pointed. That way. Billy Goat cruised halfway down Wide Earp Boulevard to the fairgrounds and back through the empty avenues of tourist attractions to the south. Dodge City was a ghost town. Seth said to go north, so we crawled down Gunsmoke and Comanche looking for signs of life. They really beat this Wild West horse to death, huh? I stared past Seth out the window at Potemkin saloons and a statue of a bull named El Capitan. Billy Goat drove until Seth told him to take a right. We followed his ears through the desolate boulevards lined with campers and RVs, but there were no people. But slowly the sound of music overtook the grumble of the box truck's exhaust system. Soon enough we couldn't deny Seth was hearing correctly. Here. He waved to the left. Billy Goat took the next turn. He hit the brakes. The box truck wheezed. 2 police cruisers barred traffic from the junction. A crowd of people with their backs to us stood in the street just beyond the cars. The sound of tight-skinned snare drums twiddled on the windshield. The insistent thump of bass drums made the floorboards skip.
"What's all this?"
Billy Goat shook his head and leaned forward.
"A lot of white folks in jorts."
I marveled at the density of the crowd.
"I can see more on the other side of the street, too. A lot of folks looking for a show is all I see."
Seth's eyes were glazing over. I snapped my fingers beneath his nose, but he was too fascinated to play along.
"But seriously, what is it?"
Billy Goat honked.
"It's a parade, stupid,"
I reasoned out.
"Parade, huh?"
Seth's hand found the door handle and pulled.
"Let's go see."
Billy Goat killed the engine and opened his door. Seth never took his eyes off the back of that cheering crowd. I piled out after Evil and we all followed Seth past the barricades. We found a hole in the crowd and insinuated ourselves to the front. Massive. That's all there is to say about that crowd. Clearly, everyone in town had gathered in that one place. But there had to be way more people than just the townies out there. It was dense as Manhattan. Every pedestrian block was filled on both sides of the street as far down as I could see. I looked back to the east where the parade had just ended and there were stacks of vacationing families spilling out into the empty traffic lanes. Seth was hypnotized by the sheer size of the mass. Their joy, their guile. Gangs of sunburned children in Easter colors screamed their heads off chasing after the horses. They weaved through mounds of horseshit as the mounted police followed the last truck in the train through the parade route. Seth took in their faces like a glutton.
"Afternoon, brother."
He stopped a pasty square in a fishing cap.
"Just rolled in. What did we miss?"
Seth thumbed at the parade.
"Happy Easter, partner."
The buck-toothed stranger grinned back.
"That's the Right Reverend Randall Roberts homecoming you just missed. That's his car there."
The guy pointed down the crowded street. I squinted down the block at the brake lights. I spied a flatbed truck with a country and western band in full swing receding into the west. There was a convertible in front of the truck weaving from curb to curb. I could just make out the wide-backed black suit with its listless arm poking up out of the back seat, waving lazily at one half of the street and then rotating slowly to wave at the other.
"Everyone kept saying the parade was going to be a washout because the skies have been so black. They've been canceling events all week since the rain came."
The stranger shook his head.
"But here about 1 o'clock,
He snapped his fingers.
everything just cleared up.
He marveled.
Clouds, rain, all of it gone.
He leveled an eye at Seth.
Don't tell me the Lord ain't watching. Amen." "Amen."
Seth was looking at the guy like he had 3 heads, but he stuck his hand out anyway.
"Yes, amen, brother. This is an Easter blessing."
They shook on it and Seth made a new friend. With the sidewalks opening up, I saw blocks upon blocks of food trucks and travel smokers revealed. Pit trailers and hot dog stands receded into the distance in either direction on the strip. Light towers and boom lifts serried on every corner. Barkers stepped back onto their boxes once the parade music had faded away. The whole place smelled like mustard and exhaust. Seth took a long look down the 1.5 miles of whitewashed plywood stalls hawking tchotchkes of the crucifixion and t-shirts with Jesus crying blood. You could feel him vibrating. He got the keys from Billy Goat and ran to grab a box of CDs. He came running back to the midway, looking around wildly.
"Glasses, come hold this for me."
He stabbed at the ceiling tape with his thumb. He tore the top flaps wide open and yanked out double handfuls of CDs. He scanned the crowd and found some marks. Seth set his stance. He thrust his fists full of CDs into the air in a monumental V.
"I bring music and hope. Come get some."
He started belting out "He's a Mighty Good Leader" until the people stopped following the parade. The throng turned to check the noise. One said,
"That's him."
and then 100 within earshot seemed to suddenly recognize Seth from the videos in Mary's Grapevine. They turned and surged. They clapped and gawked and gathered in close around. He collected their glances and planted them. The mass thrust forward. They boiled around his box of merchandise like a school of piranha. The sheep threw money and Seth tried to throw a CD back through the pike of grabbing hands to the right customer. The box was empty in 5 minutes and the empty-handed groaned like it was a bellyache. Seth started to sing again to try and smooth things over. And this time, the people joined in. Seth began to move the crowd. He attracted a conga line of followers as he marched past the booths and signs adorned with born-again propaganda. Even in the myriad of all of the other distractions, Seth was still the rarest bird. He took a lap down the midway with the New World in tow. I stood there and watched him march his army within blocks of the Right Reverend's train. You could hear him laughing all the way down the street. Seth was so drunk on the unexpected liquor of swaying such a sizable crowd, the Right Reverend's crowd, that he eventually had to leave the midway to catch his breath. We walked back to the truck and Seth was a giddy mess, excited like Christmas Eve.
Let's get to the venue.
He punted the empty box into the weeds. Billy put her in gear and backed the box truck out. We passed the traffic cones. A parking attendant beeped his whistle and waved us forward. Billy followed the plywood walls plastered in posters for Velvet T. Walker's Good Friday showcase. The street team had been working the town over for a week already. The paper hanging led all the way out to the hinterlands. All of the big events at Livestock were taking place out at the county fairgrounds, but we were in the gymnasium at the community college, way the hell on the other side of town from the festival. The college was separated from the main veins of city traffic by a vast suburban wasteland on one side and fields of corn and soy on the other. Flat gold waves rolled on for miles. Ranch-style pueblos hemmed us in. A man could hear himself think in spaces like that. It was spring break and the campus was quiet as a tomb. The sheep would have to be slapped in the face and told where to find us. They'd have to make a very clear decision not to see the Right Reverend. Then they'd have to slip all over Hellstaff Acre trying to locate the venue. Even when they got to the college, there'd be no one around to point them towards the gym. At least there would be plenty of free parking. Billy got backed in at the dock next to the church bus.
Oh Lord, the man of the hour has arrived.
Lips Ahoy shouted from the edge of the dock. There was a pause and then the entire street team came barreling out the doors to greet their messiah. They surrounded his side of the truck. You would have thought he'd been away at war for a year and not hiding out around West Texas for days. I left him to the bums rush and got out on Billy Goat's side. The rest of us went inside the venue. I went to find the band. It wasn't a bad venue. It had a white dome like the Royal Albert Hall. The floor space was laid out like your average high school gym with a key at either end. There was a stage set up with the backstage area beneath one of the retracted basketball hoops. We followed the shotgun sound of Barrel's kick drum. I could hear Fat and Dwayne tuning to one another.
We were wondering where everyone went.
Dwayne laughed as I walked up the steps to the stage.
Mom and T are over at the grocery store.
He drew me into a hug like straps on a barrel. I wheezed.
Oh, we probably just passed them on the way in. There was a huge parade. The Reverend.
Dwayne made a frown, but he let it fall away before it soured him.
Mama said to tell you we're meeting over at the cafeteria for dinner tonight. She found somebody she talked into giving her the keys to the kitchen.
He hitched up his pants and sat back down to the DX7 that T had loaned us. I could hear Seth and his entourage entering the backstage area. The gym was suddenly filled with the choral thunder of He's a Mighty Good Leader in full voice as Seth led the street team in his signature anthem. I stalked out the swinging double doors. I ducked back into darkness in the ancillary hall. Two dormant soda machines loitered in the red splash of light from the emergency exit sign. My chuck squeaked on the waxed floor as I turned a black left in the maze. I held up my phone to light the polished concrete as I walked past shadowed doorways toward a shard of light. I took another left down a short hall and pushed a cracked door the rest of the way open. I found a tiny office with a window that opened up onto the gym. That's where I set up my laptop and the relay. Back out on the gym floor, Seth was applauding the street team as they adjusted nail and hammers, amps, and speaker cabinets by minute degrees until the room vibrated like the footsteps of God. Dwayne's bass hand could summon the brown note. Beryl was showing Nutty Fruitcakes and Chester Doors how Velvet Tea's lighting rigs worked. Fujitsu, Jim, and I studied the walls with Chuck Vu's toroidal dipoles. And when everything was perfect, Seth led a charge across campus to the student union. Mary wasn't kidding around when it came to Easter dinner. There were full place settings at a long banquet table in the student union. The kitchen light was on. There was clatter and steaming.
Y'all feel like chicken tonight?
Mary exited the busy kitchen, wiping off her hands with her apron. The street team helped her serve, and then everyone sat.
Gather hands, y'all,
Seth announced. I watched them link hands with their neighbors. I watched them bow their heads. I bowed mine at the end of the table, but something was nagging at me. I took a deep breath to clear my head. My thigh began vibrating. My hand fell on my phone. I pulled it out. I raised one eyelid. My thumb poked the key. I read the text from Joey's number. Dr. Vu's wife just found him hanging in his shed. My eyes shot wide open. I looked around at all the praying heads. I eased my way up from the table. I snuck away to the exit. Evil followed me out. I marched double time towards the parking lot, ready to watch it fill up with police cars. My mind played out 1,000 different scenarios of how the end would go down. I strained to hear sirens in the prairie wind. I hadn't noticed exactly when Evil started whining. I stopped. I looked around for her and realized that I had stepped off of the walkway and into the dark just beyond the light of the student union. 5 feet behind me, Evil licked her chops in the light. She kneaded the pavement with her tip-tapping feet. It felt like the light was a mile away. What in the name of creation are you doing here, you pissant? I turned to where the shadow was darkest. Asa Roberts stepped out from behind a dumpster.
I told Daddy you'd try to sneak something in on us sooner or later.
He dribbled forward like he was still smarting from the beating Mary had delivered to him at the dental college.
You people can't do a thing without sneaking around. That damn mongrels don't know what it is to do business with honor. To live with honor.
He moved in.
You ain't got that old bitch or any birds around to protect you now.
My heart hurt in my chest. I was pinned in place.
I know y'all didn't come all this way thinking about throwing a wrench in Daddy's show.
He raised his forearm to me and flexed his fist.
Am I right about that?
His knuckles glinted.
No.
What was the point in lying? Asa actually stopped approaching. The light from the back porch lit his face.
Son of a shit. You don't even have the respect to lie to me. Daddy was right. You people are ripe for extinction.
That's when he reached out to grab me. Evil yipped somewhere to my right. One big solid mitt gripped my arm with more force than necessary, and Asa reeled me in until his forearm mashed over my mouth. I snorted panic snot onto the sleeve of Ace's jacket as he manhandled me off balance and hustled me out into the deeper darkness beyond the bank of AC units. I threw my eyes around looking for a savior. I looked back at the island of light and Evil was not there. I jerked my head up until my mouth was free and tried to yell for help. Asa raised whatever was in his fist and slammed it down into my gut, knocking the wind out of me. He let go of me and I crumpled to the ground. I looked back at the kitchen. I looked out at the fields.
He grabbed me by the back of my pants. He wedgied me upright. Asa set me up on my feet like a toddler. Your waiting days are over, boy. Asa bent down and rolled me into a half Nelson and dragged me on towards the parking lot. What do you want? Every word bled out of my throbbing jaw. Asa finally stopped and tripped me, so I went down. Then he stepped over, reared back, and slammed a steel-toed boot into my right knee. He didn't break the leg, but something popped. I grabbed the kneecap and bit to protest the pain. It was the only response I could manage. If I tried to roll away and die, Asa would surely make a move. I heard the slow teeth of something metallic clicking into place. I looked over at the back of Asa's closed hand. I was just a kid when Daddy baptized me. Asa sounded tired. Even then he said I'd be his hand. I've been told since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. I could hear liquid in his breath. I think you got more than a slap on the ass and a toothache coming to you, boy. Have a taste. He turned his hand so that I could see the pistol. It looked so tiny. Get up, Asa barked. I wasn't going to do any such thing. Asa was going to kill me if I got up, and I didn't want to die in the bushes in Dodge City. I said get! He thundered across the inches between us and clamped down around my throat. I was death rolled around and around, and I had to push upward off of my heels to ease the pressure on my windpipe. The gun changed hands, and Asa landed a haymaker square in my breadbasket. I fell out of his grip and flopped back down on my knees. Spikes of sweat shot through my pores. I barfed coppery milk up the back of my throat. I cried when I wasn't busy panting. I could hear the gravel scraping a step closer up on my right. I could smell the foot powder. I could feel the barrel of the gun sitting down heavy onto the back of my skull. I felt the barrel pressing in when Asa moved his finger on the trigger. I closed my eyes. There was a meaty slap in the sound of the pistol shot. The pressure left the back of my head. There was no pain. I closed my eyes and floated there weightless in the middle of things. Death was dark red behind my eyelids. The sounds of scuffle filled my ears. I opened my eyes and Seth was squaring off with Asa. I'm not playing with you, boy. Asa chambered another round and brought the pistol up. His left ear and his nose were branded with fresh blood from the mic stand in Seth's hands. Asa was dazed and slow to track Seth's evasive stalking. Asa raised the gun like a drunk. Seth juked to the right like he was walking the stage. He pivoted, turned, and hammered the microphone stand down into Asa's forearm. Asa grunted and cradled his sleeve. Seth stomped into Asa's zone, turned, and backhammered his elbow right into the side of Asa's face. I heard a sound like eggshells breaking. Seth dipped out of Asa's reach. Asa was looped from the blow, but he recovered quickly and was standing steady sooner than I would have liked. Why won't you go down? Seth swiveled left to right, fast left, back to right. That's what I was going to ask you. Asa brought the gun up at an odd tilt. His arm was definitely broken. The barrel sank. He tried to press the trigger but couldn't pull it off with his right hand. Asa moved the pistol from his limp right paw and into the left. Seth ducked behind the meter hut as Asa scanned for a target. Asa bumbled around for a flash, and in that instant, Evil moved in. She charged forward past Seth, a foot tall and all teeth and snarling muzzle. She zipped in quick and nipped Asa on the right ankle before bopping away out of his reach. Asa hopped on his left foot and I could see blood spreading on his sock. Evil juked in and out of his peripheral vision, making him turn and turn and turn to find her. She got him dizzy and then she shot forward. The second he lurched, she latched onto the meat in his fat ass. Asa stood up straight and hollered. He brought the pistol down and slammed it into Evil's face. Evil let out a howl that hurt to hear. I looked around and found her rolled into a loaf on the grass.
God damn!
The words were big and angry in my ears. Billy Goat ate up the distance to the fray with a look on his face that would have melted steel.
This your bitch?
Asa taunted Billy Goat.
You come get her before I put a round in her.
He showed the pistol like he didn't care. He put a steel toe into the pup and kicked her away beneath the nearest trailer. He raised the gun and leered.
You!
Billy Goat didn't run away from the gun. He had a foot of height on Asa and he knew how to make the most of it. All of his years of defensive football played out in the deserted parking lot as he dodged the 2 shots Asa managed to pop off in his direction. Billy Goat was on him in 2 breaths. He dropped down low and his opening blow connected with Asa's nuts. The fatter man whimpered and wilted to his knees. He cradled his nuts with an injured fist. Asa swept his free hand around like a bear paw. He swatted at Billy Goat but went wide. Billy Goat stepped into Asa's overreach, grabbed his wrist, and throttled until the pistol dropped out of it. He reached over and gave Asa a thump to the chest that crumpled him. Billy Goat hunted around for the gun. Asa rolled onto the pistol. Billy Goat saw Asa struggling to right himself. He stepped forward. Asa lifted up and pulled the pistol out from under his hip. He pushed himself up and aimed. Billy Goat covered the distance in the time it took Asa to put his finger onto the trigger. Asa's left wrist shook as he pressed down. That momentary pause of weakness was enough for Billy Goat. He put his right foot into Asa's chest like he was kicking down a door. The gun went off and Billy Goat's crotch lit up with the shot. But the bullet went wild and traveled straight through Billy Goat's legs and into the stucco wall of the student union. Asa went flying backwards from the kick and clipped the back of his head on the AC. He left a smear of red jelly on the bottom edge of the sheet metal housing and then melted between the 2 units.
Damn, Glasses.
Seth moved quickly to reach Asa.
You gotta learn how to fight.
He bent down to check Asa's vitals. He grabbed Asa's keys and phone and then disappeared somewhere around the corner of the building. Billy Goat recovered Evil from behind the dumpster.
Piece of shit. So lucky my dog's made of Teflon.
The poor thing was shivering in his arms.
What do we do with that?
I panted and pointed at Asa's carcass.
We'll put him in the root cellar.
Seth was already removing Asa's shoes and socks. He collected the gun. We left Asa breathing but unconscious in the pantry and padlocked the cellar door.